everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve.
And welcome once again to Gotham Discussions. Unfortunately, Dan's News is once again not with us, and he apologizes profusely. He actually was going to be here just an hour ago. He thought he was still doing the show with us, and something came up, and he wasn't able to be here. And we talked about maybe rescheduling and stuff, but my week's been really super strange. If you haven't heard by now, my second son was born this week. Our new son, Frederick, and Sarah is actually at the hospital right now as we speak. She's coming home tomorrow. So I had just a little window to get Gotham Discussions done, and there are other shows that have not come up this week and that won't come up this week because I've been dealing with that. So anyway, everybody bear with me for the next few days as I deal with fatherhood again. So if you're wondering what this is, that's because I've been at the hospital. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get into Gotham today. Like I said, Dan apologizes for not being here, but he wanted us to express that he really liked the episode that we're talking about today. And we will get into that here in a little bit after we talk about some questions and comments from the audience from last week's incredibly important episode, which was, what was that called? What was that called? It was
called Penguin's Umbrella.
Penguin's Umbrella, thank you. I should have remembered that because I thought the title was awesome. And by the way, I want to start adding a new segment to this show, which is symbols. We should just have a whole segment just discussing the symbols, because there are always a lot of them, and this episode was no exception. Anyway, so Penguin's Umbrella, and let's answer a few questions and comments, Steve. Brennan Jones, this is the best episode of the series by far. I mean, the dialogue for this episode, in my opinion, was nearly flawless. I agree, the dialogue in that episode was really good, but doesn't quite catch up to some of the super coolness stuff that was being done the episode before with Ben Edlund, but I'm a little partial to Ben Edlund.
No, I agree. I thought the Ben Edlund episode had great dialogue, but even the one we just saw, Penguin's Umbrella, was really good too, so I don't mind. This show was pretty good for being quotable.
Johnny Torch, Penguin played this stinking city like a harp from hell. Yeah, I thought that. I actually tweeted that last week, and one of the things that I meant to talk about last week that I totally didn't bring up was that I was noticing quite a bit of Batman Returns in that particular episode.
Yeah, agreed. Everything Penguin does just seems like really Batman Returns-y Penguin. Yeah,
but like I understand why he's doing things. Yeah,
he's not biting noses off for no reason.
I guess the week before more so though. Now that I'm thinking about it, because and maybe I didn't bring this up then either, because the week before we had somebody like picking off rich people's newborns. Mm. That's the plot from Batman Returns.
Yeah,
Penguin killed the newborns. Yeah.
I'm sure someone commented on that at least once. I keep getting messages over the course of the week where people point out connections to Batman Returns with this show.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I think they just really like that movie, and maybe the whole point of this show, or maybe probably not the whole point, but maybe one of the big points of this show, Steve, is to like take all the cool iconography from that, but actually make a little bit of sense out of it.
Yeah. Batman Returns has lots of potential, and maybe they're just realizing it finally.
Hezekiah Ramirez. I really think Erin Richards, the actress who plays Barbara, looks a little like a young Nicole Kidman. Here's my theory. She gets more and more whiny and petty until she leaves Gordon because he doesn't admit to drinking the last beer in the fridge in a very dramatic crying and running away scene. She goes so far off the rails, she develops an alternate personality and calls herself, wait for it, Chase Meridian. She then gets her psychiatry degree and returns to Gotham years later where Gordon doesn't recognize her because he's clearly suffering from Alzheimer's at that point. How else would this Gordon turn into Batman Forever Gordon? Go! Of course! He doesn't recognize her and his mind is starting to go, oh, that's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious.
I think that should happen.
I'm impressed that you sort of, in your hilarious facetiousness, kind of called what happens in this episode, because she does leave. Now, the thing is, and we'll get to this, but because of they like to throw us red herrings with her, I keep getting this feeling like they know I don't like this character, so they're trying to get me to get really excited when maybe she's gonna go somewhere. And like last episode, she gets on the bus, and I'm like, yay! And then I remember that I'm not like with a crowd of people watching a sporting event. And then this week, toward the end, she leaves him a note and leaves, and I was like, okay, you're not gonna trick me twice. She's gonna be there in the teaser of next episode. You just wait. Cap, you had Arrow discussions on your computer screen instead of Gotham.
Ooh.
Not today. Not today. Let's see here.
Yeah, almost a Batman show, so it kind of counts.
At least it didn't say Shield or something. That wouldn't have had anything.
That's true.
That wouldn't have been anything like close. Malsray Erwin, I don't understand why you think Gordon ought to seek out Montoya. To be honest, ooh, let's see what you're thinking here. Her antics going behind his back to try and make Barbara leave him and not trust him is not exactly going to give someone motivation to trust her and her partner. True enough, but he wasn't even trying to like get with them and do anything with them before he even knew about that, right? Like yeah. My big thing was at the beginning. Here's like the only. Maybe I need to rewatch it. Maybe something in there will refresh my memory and I'll go, oh, this couldn't have happened. But well, I keep thinking this whole time that early on it's like you've got like these the people that you trust the least, it seems, are the two people who most want a less corrupt city. I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's fair. And when they first show up in the pilot, you get this sense that the only reason everyone hates them is because they're cops that actually do their job. And it just makes it wonder, like, from the get-go, why didn't he go to them? Even before Barbara became an issue. That's
all I'm saying. Now, you're right. After that, he does not have any reason to trust her, sure. And frankly, anybody who ever dated Barbara, you probably don't have any good reason to trust, and that makes me not like Gordon as much. And right. It makes it hard, you know. I feel like it should make it harder for me to even trust Gordon, that he has such poor taste in women. Very fair point, though. Thank you for that. John Sidney, this is cool. Captain Logan, you said in your Batman Returns review that no one ever says that Penguin is their favorite character. That is until this show. Now, I will say that I was being... back then, when I said that, I was being somewhat hyperbolic, maybe, because... these days, I think a lot more people, I've heard more people say, oh, the Penguin's my favorite character. But, yeah, this show is going to turn a lot of people into Penguin fans that didn't care about the character before. I love both the Penguin and Falcone in this episode. Penguin killing that guard by finding out his weakness was awesome. Agreed. That was our favorite moment. Any scene with Falcone is awesome, especially when he wants Gordon to believe him. This is kind of a long comment. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but suffice it to say, yes, I agree. Oh, James McCarthy, do you think we will see more people who could be the Joker in the future, like the comedian many episodes ago? I have been surprised not to see any more so far.
Yeah, they said that they were going to do one every episode, but I'm not sure if they just dropped the ball on that, or if they want to save it for a bigger reveal, or maybe they actually want to cast the Joker now.
Maybe so. Yeah, I have heard things about maybe Harley Quinn at some point, so, like, who knows? I think it would be a lot smarter to not say we're going to do it every episode and to say that periodically we might do it. And they have been very smart, I think, Steve, to have a lot of characters that are not straight up comic book characters. Like, I kind of expected every single person we ever saw on the show would be somebody, minor or otherwise, from the comics, and they have made up some characters now. So I'm not saying that they necessarily have had any more Jokers so far. I'm just saying that we're not going to expect it when it comes up now, and that I like a lot. I think one every episode is
their own rogues gallery to an extent, and that's cool. It helps the show build its own mythology.
One every episode's too gimmicky. I don't know how you keep it up.
Yeah.
Captain Logan, regarding the chickens, Joel Everett, do you think that maybe the chickens are a metaphor for fish playing chicken with Falcone? There might be something in there. There's a lot of different things that we could talk about with the chicken. Somebody else in here said something about like a coming to roost, that kind of stuff. There's a whole lot of connotations when we're talking about chickens. And the big thing, obviously, is just Penguin is his snitch now, and he is trying to keep him in the chicken coop. You know what I mean? He's trying to keep he's trying to keep control of him, and that seemed to be kind of him the whole episode, hiding that in plain sight. And I like that kind of thing is kind of fun to me. I don't know why everyone in the show is so freaking theatrical, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the nature that Gotham in itself makes theatrical people, and that's a really Batman thing to do.
Let me see if there's anything else we want to throw out real quick. Dark Sandwich, this episode felt kind of Game of Thrones to me. I can kind of see that. Yeah. Hector Rivera. Oh my God, Cap. I know. Shiny shoes. Shiny. I know it's been mentioned before, but seriously, every scene in Wayne Manor has been shot in the exact same room. People keep complaining about this. I agree with you, and you know, I don't know if I would have noticed it until somebody pointed it out to me. Now that I've seen it, I can't not see it. This whole episode, when they were in the manor, I kept going, well, at least there's a hallway back there. Like...
Well, I mean, at least he's a bit sanitary. He changed his clothes. He's no longer in the mansion for most of this episode, so... I don't know, maybe Bruce Wayne is not as rich as we thought he was.
Nicholas Perry, holy terrible love interest, Batman. Captain Logan read my comment. Alright, so why don't we go ahead and go to today's episode. Thanks everybody as always for the entertaining and insightful comments. And now, today we're going to talk about episode 8, The Mask. I was not expecting Black Mask this early. I'm sure some folks knew about it already, and that was not a thing that had come to my attention yet when the Sionis name came up. The first thing I thought of was, oh, that's the name of the guy with the steel mill. And then, and it's also Black Mask. I forgot about that. Okay. I've seen Black Mask in few enough things that I always forget what his real name is. And he's, like, the main thing I've seen him in, of course, is No Man's Land. And in that, his real name doesn't come up very much because he's completely and utterly taken, like been buried in that persona, so...
Yeah, and they only use his last name. They don't go for his first name. Probably leading because they want, like, his kid to be the real Black Mask or something like that.
No, they called him by his real name in this.
No, they call him Richard. His name is Roman.
Oh, that's true. Okay, now, hold the phone for a second, though, because is it possible that Roman ends up not being a name but a title?
Yeah, it's...
I'm just saying in this, right? Because we have, like, the Roman. I'm just saying, like, it's I don't know.
Yeah, it's certainly possible that could become a title of some sort.
I want this guy to be the actual Black Mask. I really do. I think he's potentially interesting. He's already got that mask motif going on. It would be kind of irritating if it was like his son just inherits that or something. I don't know, but maybe we would never get there far, and we would never get far enough in this reality that would matter. I don't know, but just the way he looks at masks as a freeing thing as opposed to a thing you hide behind, and that when you put a mask on, you're able to show who you really are outside of the mask because it's masking the skin that you're not comfortable in. I really like all that. I want this guy to be the real Black Mask.
Yeah, and it's a little bit counter to what Black Mask is in the comics, because in the comics, the reason Black Mask gets his motif is because he hates his parents for constantly putting on a face for society, and so his scarred up face and his real mask is to show the ugliness of people that wear masks, and it's kind of ironic. And in this, it's the exact opposite, where masks are an empowering thing. I think that's all really potentially cool.
And once again,
I think we could have done more with the mask motif, though.
We'll talk about it. I don't mind that because I'm expecting him to be a character that comes up again. So I think it's a good setup, Steve. I like you don't want to pay off everything if you're going to keep using this character, because there's a lot to mine with the notion of masks and all those identity questions. So if they killed him off, then I would feel the same way, but I don't right now.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they didn't do what every other episode does and just kind of kill the main villain or something like that. If he comes back and he does like the comic book thing of like uniting all of the factions that we see at war right now, that would be really cool.
That would be cool. Do you expect to see him get kind of dethroned, or will he keep in his kind of place of power with his company?
Well, I don't know, because they made a reference to it. I'm not sure how much of it was a reference and how much of it was just like good dialogue. But Gordon says that his philosophy of business being a warrior is wrong, and businessmen should be businessmen. And the thing with Black Mask in the comics is that he's a terrible businessman, and that's why he lost his company, and that's why he kind of went crazy. If they're subverting that and they're kind of making him a businessman first and then a criminal, that could be cool too. And I think ultimately that would work, because then you could serve as like a neat parallel for what the Wayne family was versus what the Sionis family is, and those two families know each other in the comics as well. So yeah, I think it'd be really cool if we don't do straight up comic book Black Mask, but if he does like eventually become like, he's a ruling businessman, he already went to jail once, people don't suspect him, and he becomes like the head of all of the crime families, especially now that they're all at peace.
One of the things that I really like about that is, as we've been doing with all of the vigilante-type characters in this show so far, and bad guys that put on masks but kind of sort of have maybe like a skewed perspective of how to fix the problems in the city. Obviously, with him, it's the opposite. He's not trying to fix anything. He wants to use the ambiguity of crime in the city to his advantage. But it still continues to parallel stuff with Batman and set up some of the notions of the way Bruce Wayne will look at vigilanteism. Because after all, for Bruce Wayne, also the mask is a freeing thing. It's the exact same philosophy.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they did the episode where Bruce finally kind of cracks along with Black Mask, because when he beats up Tommy Elliott, he says it feels good, and Alfred says that's because he deserved it, and it's exactly a freeing thing for him. So to kind of like parallel those two characters right now of, well, Black Mask puts on the mask to incite violence and incite crime, but Bruce puts it on as a freeing experience to get all of his anger out and to fix the city, because those that deserve it get beaten up, not the Black Mask way of you fight at the bottom to work your way up.
And I like that they went as far as to say, Tommy goes as far as to say he tried to kill me. I mean, Batman always has that thing of, the only line I have is I don't kill because I don't want to become the thing I'm fighting against, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to all the time. Batman does classically get some joy out of beating up the bad guys, right? Frank Miller's more than anybody's, but certainly but certainly Batman to some degree has always kind of had that. So to see Bruce Wayne this early really enjoy that and think, but still, obviously be held back. I would assume that we will get to a place where he will, even as a young kid, probably want to kill someone and have to hold back and start that whole kind of philosophy of, that's the one thing that separates me from everybody else. I want to talk about Alfred, because I questioned a little bit his encouraging that behavior, and his, at the end, agreeing so readily and being so excited and proud of, Bruce wants me to train him. That feels a little bit contrary to where he was at the beginning of the season. I'm not sure that we've gotten him here. I just wonder about it. Yeah. Because before, he had very much had this mindset of, Bruce, you need to have a childhood, and he is encouraging the biggest part of Bruce's new kind of idea of discipline and trying to grow up real fast so that he can. I mean, he's making no. Bruce isn't making it a mystery at all that he wants to stop all this, that he wants to fix things, right? Like, I think you can tell just looking at him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that kid is a fantastic actor.
He's constantly telling Alfred to bring him stuff so that he can do research, to try to get to the bottom of a lot of the corruption, and a lot of it's about his parents, but you can tell that he's already making that correlation that Gordon is just now thinking maybe is there. That Gordon has, I think, thought this whole time is there. I think that Essen is starting to finally kind of pick up on a little bit, that Gordon thinks is there. So I don't know. What do you think about Alfred? Do you buy that?
I agree. I guess it feels weird that we got him here like this. At the same time, it could be to the level of Alfred's encouraging this because he wants to see Bruce fail at it, and he like reluctantly goes into a normal life.
I don't think that's what it is.
No, I don't think it's that either. But I think, at least the way I'm reading it right now, it is Bruce's fearing experience. I think Alfred is thinking that if he teaches Bruce to fight, and Bruce felt good beating up on Tommy, and he's able to channel that anger, maybe that's what allows him to eventually have a normal life, or maybe he's able to finally get rid of all that pent-up anger. He's finally doing something that isn't just sitting in his room, the same room, over and over again, reading case files.
He is finally allowing himself to feel something.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what Alfred's encouraging. Okay, all right, I can see that. I think this will work really well, possibly then, if down the line Alfred realizes just how far Bruce is wanting to take it and starts to really regret training him at all. And I'm sure that'll I really like the idea that Alfred is part of his combat training.
Yeah, I love that. I think now more than ever we really need an episode where either Bruce goes out and gets hurt or Bruce gets kidnapped. just so because he's really stepping into that firsthand experience of he's going to be in the nitty gritty of the streets. He's going to finally do something, or he finally wants the means to do it. If we can maybe make him a little bit overzealous and get himself hurt or something, and we can progress where he's going. Because this is like the first time we've seen him in the city since the pilot.
Yeah,
we saw him in that one ballroom. I guess that's there, but like we haven't seen him like in the street or in any bad neighborhoods yet. I think that this episode is making us sure that that's coming.
Tommy Elliott, are they doing something opposite for the sake of being different?
Possibly, because that's what they did with Black Mask. They did something opposite. So,
and here's the thing: Black Mask, I don't mind, partly because I don't know a lot about that character. So even now after what you've said, I can't get all, oh no, they're not doing exactly the same thing. I wouldn't do that anyway if it's good. And so far, I think he is potentially kind of interesting. But again, potentially, as you said, they haven't taken that to its furthest extent yet. But there's a philosophy set up, and the way he runs his company is so out there and over the top, and you could only get away with it in Gotham. I really like seeing, by the way, the thing that Fish Mooney did a few episodes ago with the girls done in a corporate place.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. So anyway, I don't mind that. When it's just gimmicky, the opposite of, oh, look how ironic we are, that's when it gets really problematic for me in a reimagining prequel kind of thing. With Tommy Elliott, I don't know if that's what it is yet, but he's the bully, he's really kind of typical. We don't know yet where his kind of pent-up aggression is coming from, and if they don't explore that and actually do things with that character, I'm going to be a little bit miffed about it, because right away it's just, oh, okay, you got, let's pick on the new kid. Like, he has to have had a similar damaged past as the actual comic book character did for me to buy that he would that he would be like that. I think you could give this kid the same background and have him just act on it somewhat differently.
Yeah, because Hush in the comics is very rarely used well, and he's the character with like the most potential in like the past 10 years of Batman villains. It's just every story that with him seems to be really bad unless Paul Dini does it. And in this version, he says that his parents are already dead.
Oh, and I missed that. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that one of them wasn't abusive.
Yeah, exactly. I think what we could get here is potentially like, if we can reimagine it, and he is a bit of a bully to Bruce, and he feels like a kindred spirit with him, maybe he just grows up as always wanting to be a bully for Bruce, and that becomes his psychosis. Again, you'd have to like keep him around a lot. You'd have to have Bruce interact with him at school quite a bit to get that, and even get to see his relationship with his parents before they died. But I think even potentially you could do it without even mentioning his parents, because we haven't seen Bruce Wayne's parents at all since they died, and we still get a really deep psychology with them. I think if you start out Hush as he just wants to bully on Bruce constantly, like that's his one fixation because they're so much alike, I think you could do a much better interpretation of that character than the comics did.
Yeah, maybe this is the time to reinvent him a bit.
Yeah, because Paul Dini's trying a lot. Like, he has Hush Money, he has Heart of Hush, and those are good books, but they're built on a really rotten foundation set by Jeff Loeb.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where they go with it. Do you have an opinion on how they started it? Like, were you put off by the differences, or are you kind of okay with it so far?
It opened me up to that hilarious joke of, I guess Bruce finally got Tommy Elliott to hush up.
I get it.
No, I didn't mind so much. I was kind of hoping that they did the friendship, like maybe Hush is the one guy that kind of brings Bruce out of his shell. But the way they're playing Bruce out of his shell with violence, I think that works better.
Well, now let's not be naive enough to not expect them to make them friends eventually.
Yeah, that's true.
That could still happen. Now, it's still different from the comics, because in the comics they were friends while his parents were still alive. But they could totally do that here and have, as you said, a kindred spirit thing where he lashes out because Bruce reminds him of himself and how he was feeling when his parents died, and so he's trying to be the tough guy, and he's lashing out over it. But it could be the thing that eventually pulls them together. Maybe after this, he'll have developed more of a respect for him, or maybe even it makes him grow up a little bit. Who knows? They could do anything with it. My worry is that they just won't use him much. But I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping that he becomes a recurring character. The kid did okay.
Yeah, the kid was fine. He didn't have a lot to do, but even like his reactionary shots, some of his bullying stuff, it was fine.
I think he's on par with the kid playing Bruce. I mean, I think he's fine.
Yeah, that's true. I actually showed this episode to one of my friends who is a psychology major, and she says that in this episode particularly, there's a lot of setup for a potential exploration of child psychologies.
Yeah.
Especially like when they lose their parents, because Bruce is already doing a lot of that. But there's already like a lot of classic signs with like kids like wanting to lash out in violence. They're being angry, not so much at the fact that someone killed their parents, but because their parents left them alone.
Yeah.
Especially with Tommy, I feel like this is a really cool foundation to set that stuff up on. Especially because we don't get child actors that are as good as Bruce very often. I think it'd be a horrible missed opportunity if we didn't at least attempt to look at like what happens to children when these sort of tragedies strike them.
I am really waiting for the episode that is more Bruce-centered than it is Gordon-centered.
Yeah.
Because we haven't gotten it yet.
An episode of Arrow where you jump everything on its head and you make the backstory make sense.
Well, that's not what I mean. I'm just saying that, like, I'm waiting for an episode where we get to see this kid be on screen for 35 of our 42 minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because we haven't had that yet. But we did get a Bullock episode a couple weeks ago, so that tells me that we're gonna treat this like an ensemble show, and it's not going to just be Gordon with some other people. Which honestly, I don't think. Well. And Penguin too, you know what I mean? Where like one of your protagonists is a bad guy, and I don't know. Like in a way, I just thought of this. In a way, we've kind of got that like Clark Kent Lex Luthor thing going on with Gordon and Penguin, where like I'm not saying they're friends. I just mean that like they're almost sharing screen time. It's Gordon's show, but then Penguin's like the really interesting psychology of the guy who will ultimately be the big evil trying to rule everything guy.
Yeah, you're totally right on that. And it's interesting because it seems like it's also a little bit like Batman Joker between Penguin and Gordon. I think we brought this up before.
Yes,
like,
that is true.
Really wants his company, and it's hard to explain whether or not it's for a strategic goal or if it's because he brought him here and he's what's allowing all of this to happen for him, and he appreciates him for it.
I
think the kid that plays Bruce could absolutely carry an episode even by himself. Even the guy that plays Alfred. Like both those actors are just really good, and if they do treat it like more of an ensemble show, like what you're saying, maybe we could finally get an episode with Montoya and Allen and give them characters and things to do.
That's brilliant. That's such a good idea. We should really.
You can give Allen dialogue, you know?
Yeah. We could let that guy talk more than say more than 15 words. It'd be fantastic. Yeah. Let's go down some kind of random notes. I like. Let's see. I have some things. Let me find a thing that I'm glad that this episode deals with the aftermath of Gordon's secret getting out. It could have easily been another kind of procedural episode. In a lot of ways, it kind of is, but it manages to still deal with how in the world is Gordon even operating after everything that happened. And I also like that it's about his overzealousness and that he is still, in Bullock's eyes, going too far. I still am questioning what Bullock did last episode in kind of changing his tune when he did. I still felt like there was a scene I needed to see that I didn't get to see. But where he is in this episode after all of that, I really bought. I like that he's got his back, and he agrees with Gordon to an extent, but then you still get to the very end of the episode, and Gordon says, "Look, Bullock, I'm sorry, but this is who I am, and I'm going to try to take all of the bad people down." And Bullock gives him this look like, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
You know? And so he's still with him. He's still gonna be his part. I mean, this relationship is getting very interesting.
Yeah, totally agree. There's that scene where he locks up that criminal doctor, and the officer is like, why are you making it hard for the rest of us? And Gordon says, now you know what it feels like, and they're having like almost a bit of a face-off.
Yeah.
There's a bit of like Scott Snyder-esque, like this version of Gordon, it wants everyone in Gotham to bear witness to what he's about to do. He's angry at the whole world in a sense. And then Bullock is trying to bring him down, saying like, no, you're not in this alone. We can help you. It's almost exactly kind of like the Bruce-Alfred relationship that Snyder sets up in his run. It's really interesting, and Bullock hasn't altogether become a different person. We've just kind of fleshed out who he is in the first place, and I really like that.
Well, and he's just not being smart about it because he's angry.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if I bought that line at the very end though, when Gordon says, he says that he's not enjoying this. He just says he does it if he has to.
Yeah,
I feel like that's him lying through his teeth.
Which I love. Yeah, when you say you don't buy it, it's not a slight against the writing. I think that's great. I think he is. I think he does to a degree enjoy fighting, and it's going to be interesting to learn more about his background.
Yeah,
and why that is.
Especially if we get some like war flashbacks and stuff to see what made him this way.
I imagine that they will delve more into that.
I'm
hoping they do.
I mean, we had Gordon take out 3 guys and Black Mask armed with a sword. Like, this guy clearly revels in the fight and he's good at it. So there has to be more to it, and I don't buy that Gordon just got over everything here. I think next episode we're going to see Gordon even go a little bit more off the loose end.
No, I think he's a little more damaged than we might have expected at the beginning.
Yeah, probably so.
I think there's some of that, and I like that because Gordon being an extreme personality the other way in Gotham is very smart, I think, because having just simply, I'm a good guy and I don't like that this is a good place, is not enough. You have to have a motivation, a concrete motivation for why he would be willing to risk his life the way he does, and why he is so kamikaze about it. He is as extreme, maybe not as extreme, but he is a somewhat similar extreme to what Batman will be, right? He just handles it differently. But like, I mean, he's trying to do it within the letter of the law. But it's almost like, and I guess things get a little skewed when you're looking at this city, because this city is, the norm is so surreal that it kind of, that to call Gordon an extreme is like, well, yeah, but in any other city, most people would, in a police precinct, would be more with him on stuff. So how extreme is he really? But he kind of is, because he's a small fish in a little pond going up against the piranhas.
Yeah, and he even has that really great line with Captain Essen. And she says, like, what's this Black Mask thing? This is really strange. And he says, is this really any stranger than the Balloon Man and the Viper? Yeah. And the city's really kind of becoming a new normal. And it's hard to measure just, like, how extreme is extreme.
I had the same thing.
It's also like a question, like, of Batman. Like, Batman says he won't kill, but what's the difference between killing and just horribly maiming? Like, there's a line there that very rarely gets explored. And Gordon's kind of doing that to an extent. Like, how much more does he have to beat up on the criminals before he's satisfied, and how much more before he crosses any sort of line?
Yeah, well, and I also like that we're continuing to make Thomas and Martha Wayne's death be the reason to tell this story. I mean, the break in the status quo, instead of just this arbitrary, well, Gordon shows up and now some things are happening. You know, I like the. Recently, I heard someone who I think had only seen the pilot give the argument against the show, and the reason that this person doesn't want to watch the show is because they would have preferred a show where Gotham is like this really wonderful, fine city, and then Martha and Thomas Wayne get killed, and then it goes completely to pot after that. And I think what they're doing is something more subtle than that, where it is Thomas and Martha Wayne's death makes it a lot worse for some reason. And I like that they're like that the question is raised. Well, what exactly is it about that has changed things? I like that we're asking that question. That tells me that we're gonna have a concrete answer maybe later. And but anyway, so I just think that makes a lot more sense, I think, than like it's like rainbows and butterflies, and then now it's all horrible all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I think in my eyes now, like, this episode makes the first episode better, because the very first thing we see in that episode is Martha and Thomas Wayne get shot. Like, they're not doing any kind of issue of there's no occasion for story and we're leading up to it or anything. Like, literally, there is the occasion for story, and now we're analyzing all of it.
Yeah, we broke our status quo in the first scene.
Yeah. Shot, and that being such a well done scene. That is having so many ramifications and so much history. And we're handling it far more subtly than anything I've seen before.
Well, that is really and made us rest, man. You threw us right in the middle of what's going on, and like, so the occasion, like the break in status quo was the beginning of the show. We can understand what the status quo was moving forward. We don't have to have, like, half an hour of, okay, this is what the world was like, and then this happens. And I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. I'm not saying that there aren't great stories that are told with some status quo before it gets broken. There are times when that's necessary. I mean, we can't make good storytelling a straight up formula. Here's what you plug in to make it work. But with this show, I think it made a lot of sense to do it that way. But on the other hand, it does really make me question sometimes, what is the okay, there are places in this episode where I found myself going, when is it like a problem that people break the law and when isn't it? Right? Because immediately everybody's like, oh man, we gotta get Sionis. And I'm like, but there are lots of criminals and people who own businesses that are allowed to get away with exactly the same thing. Not even things similar. We saw Fish do things like that and in front of police officers. So why is it okay? Why is it not okay for Sionis? Because he's not part of the organized crime. Because the police don't have a deal with him. Because they can actually look like they're doing their jobs by getting people that have not paid them off yet.
Yeah, that's very true. I think this opens another door, because this show seems to do this thing, like every time I don't like an episode, the next episode adds something to it and I like it more. With this episode, I feel like now there's a gap to explore all of the other police officers, and through that we can understand the relationships more with like Falcone and Maroni, and why Sionis was particularly taken out. Because we haven't had a lot of other cop characters besides Bullock, Essen, and Gordon do anything. And the moment we inject some character into them, give them more life than just, I get paid for this, then it immediately makes the whole city so much more interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like they're obviously going to have to keep a lot of random expendable ones around so that they can keep killing them off anytime they want to. But yeah, a few would be nice. We have named some, so yeah, to have some of those people get to do something might be nice. This was a really quick blink it you miss it moment, but I liked that we've already established that Bruce Wayne likes the ladies.
Yes. And then they smile at him too. That's really fun.
I really liked that.
I hope that girl ends up being Julie Madison. I really like Julie Madison.
What else do we want to talk about? Okay, so when Selena showed up, I was like, are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to keep having Catwoman like just like pop up for 6 seconds, have nothing to do with anything in the episode, just to remind us she's there? And then when she came up again at the very end, and that was sort of the cliffhanger of the episode, I was like, okay, at least she's getting us to the next thing. I kind of think that we didn't need that. Like, I kind of think that she could have just been there at the end, and we didn't really need that little scene that she was in, because it kind of interrupted the narrative. I was sort of like, what does she have to do with any of this? What is the point of that? Now, I realize, and this is the sticky thing with TV sometimes, especially this kind of show, I realize that we're looking at an ongoing narrative with singular episodes that also have their own stories. So, for me to go, well, this doesn't have anything to do with the story, is not entirely fair and accurate, because we have an overarching story going on. But we did it a couple episodes ago too, and she didn't get us from one place to another. She was just there for a minute and then not there. And then I was like, what does she have to do with anything? So when they did it here, I was like, I mean, it was a fun little cute scene, but it was just there to get her to the precinct, and they showed it to us when they did, because that was when it happens in the narrative. If they had shown us, I don't know that it would have been any different though if they'd shown it to us a little bit later. I don't know.
That's fair. It's entirely possible that we'll get an episode and all of these small cameos will make sense. And I liked it a lot the first time we did. Not this episode, like maybe 2 episodes ago, where she just shows up because this is a really big city and these people run in the same circles, so it's cool that every now and then they show up. I hope it doesn't become a gimmick, though.
Well, maybe it's more okay when they pop up with like a character that we're actually following. But that was we get out of the characters we're dealing with and just go to her for a minute.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible.
It's not a big deal.
An episode that follows Selena around and explains where each one of these little cameos came from. Like, she had her own background story going on. Yeah, she definitely has a lot that happened in her premiere episode.
Yeah, I kind of feel like right now she's not real important yet, and they wanted to just set her up because they want to do some stuff with her in Bruce Wayne and her seeing that you know, his parents' death and all of that they have to keep kind of getting us back to her, like don't forget and don't worry, we're gonna do stuff with her. So I would imagine next episode is a Selina episode.
Yeah, and there's that whole thing, like she steals something out of the Wayne mansion, and I'm sure Bruce is going to notice it's missing at some point.
Oh, I forgot about that.
The producer said that there's like some kind of intimate relationship they're going to develop between those two characters.
No doubt.
So see how that goes.
That's, by the way, one of those things that can help us move this out of prequel territory and us being able to guess what happens, right? Like, if they give them a relationship as kids, that automatically makes a lot of bets off for the future.
Yeah, exactly. And we keep saying every discussion, it's like we want this show to do something that makes people realize this isn't the comics anymore and we can't judge it on that level.
Yeah.
Maybe they will do that eventually, because right now, subtly, it's definitely there.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what I thought at the end about Bruce saying that he wanted pizza for dinner, and the more I thought about it, I was like, because the thing is, he has, and that's again really silly minor point, but Bruce is building this really adult kind of sensibility, and he's trying to grow up really fast, like I said earlier. So for you know, he's trying to build this discipline. So for him to be like to be like, I want to get pizza, I was like, I don't know. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, it's actually great, because piggybacking off of something you said a minute ago, with Alfred encouraging him to learn to fight and stuff, because it's him actually feeling, and we've already seen him conflicted about whether or not he wants a childhood, and I like that. That's come up a couple times where like he's kind of conflicted. He's like, do I want to try to somehow figure a childhood in here? But I mean, again, he's really damaged, and he's got that complex psychology where he's like, you know, we had the thing with the candle and all, and all those things where he still is a kid. He's still, you know, prepubescent. He's not sure about stuff. So I like that he's not just little Batman. You know, I like that he is still trying to decide if he wants a childhood or not. And he was the point I'm trying to get to is he got so much relief from beating up that kid that the very first thing he thought to do was eat junk food. I kind of like that.
It's a great idea, and in some ways it might be subtly saying like, well, Alfred's finally glad that he's doing kid things. Alfred has that line at the very beginning where Bruce says like all of his friends are childish, and he says, yeah, that's what you're supposed to be at this age.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that we should be real excited that Alfred and the show are saying that like it's natural for kids to like want revenge on people and beat them up and stuff. But you know what I mean? Oh, of course you want revenge. Well, you should. But there's different, like, I don't want to get into that too much. There's certainly different kind of schools of thought on the whole, like, should we allow kids to ever get in fights, and you know, violence is not the answer, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like, I don't want to make a judgment call on that, but I think that's why I really want this. Like, I really want the show to explore child psychology, because we never get anything that tells us what's okay for a kid to do. They're always held with, like, a certain degree of safety and a certain degree of innocence, and Bruce is a kid that has that completely ripped away. Maybe now we're allowed to do some more things and ask some bigger questions about that, like what is okay for a kid to do, and what is okay to do when you're dealing with a bully and stuff like that, especially when you've already suffered a loss like Bruce did. I think there's, like, a really unique case study here.
Yeah. Let's go to the fish stuff. The fish and penguin stuff. I am suddenly a lot more intrigued by her with what happened toward the end, and this could go in a really interesting direction, or it could get really muddled and weird and not really work. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Because at first I went, oh, cool, we're getting background on her. And then I thought, well, that's kind of your standard sort of obvious sap story. And then we find out that the woman on stage is probably her mom. That was the sense I got. And then I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And let me say, by the way, that had they actually gone with the story that she told, moving along and seeing how that informed things, I actually could have come to really like it. But I think it's really interesting that she's not giving the exact truth of her background, and she's manipulating people and just trying to say what a person needs to hear right in the moment. what do you think of that? I'm very intrigued by it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. The first thing we see Penguin do after that interaction is go to his mother, and she has this weird niche where she needs everyone that's under her to call her mother. And then with Falcone, she's making a creation that resembles Falcone's mother. It's really weird. It's like this weird examination of parentage, and I don't know if we're getting like a full out backstory for her, but it's certainly like good to get subtle bits of it that inform her character. Because people have been complaining about her, saying that she's overacting and stuff, but I think it works. I think that's totally in her character. I think she is totally extravagant, and that mother thing kind of plays into it, like almost like a reverse Psycho kind of thing.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just started watching Bates Motel, so that's just on my mind.
Sure.
But it feels like Psycho.
I kind of think that with the, I mean, I don't want to be premature when I say this, but with the making up a backstory or giving like pieces of the truth but not giving all of it, that's a little Heath Ledger Joker-ish. I wonder if we're ultimately going to find out that she is just psychotic. I don't know. It's just gonna be.
I like what they're doing here too. Like every character's got like a degree of madness or a degree of deluding themselves into extremes. And then if we ever do get the Joker in this show, then it would work all the better because he's just the personification of what everybody feels already.
Yeah,
and maybe the reason
he just lets himself go.
All those Joker stuff is that's why they want to cast that character and do that.
Well, maybe so. And I think everybody's going to resist that if it actually happens. But again, we've got to see where and why and how, you know. But because if you did the Joker, as you said, he would just be like the. He would finally set a precedent for, why don't you just let yourself go? This is what you want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like everybody has. You've got all these characters that are unhinged, and he would be the guy that would say, yeah, you don't need anything holding you down to earth anymore. Just like let yourself go free. You know, you don't need any kind of just get rid of the things that are holding you back.
Yeah, exactly. And the Joker thing of like one bad day will drive you as psychotic as me, it's always been like a really basic human instinct, and that's where we relate to it. And now we're just making it super literal with Gotham.
Oh, yeah.
I think it works. I think this is one of the many things this show is doing to justify its own existence.
Yeah, because it's playing with.
We haven't seen this before. We haven't seen the story explored in Gotham, and I mean, if they take that to an extreme, then it makes the show warranted. It makes this like part of the Batman canon without just being in the name.
I think you're right about that. I this whole time I have not really thought that she was necessarily overacting.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I enjoyed what she was doing. I thought that was just in her character.
Yeah, she's really mentally unstable. A lot of these characters are nearly that over the top, and I think that I get the feeling that there was a conversation early on where the actress where she was doing a thing, and they said no, bring it up. Like I get the feeling that that's from the producer's side.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know, but that's the feeling I get. I don't think that she necessarily brought that. She's like, I'm gonna go crazy. I get the sense that that's the character that they want to be that crazy and out there. And the more we're learning about her, the more it's fitting, I think.
Yeah, agreed. It seems like every character just complements her more because a lot of them embrace the madness. A lot of them like try to bury it, and she just brings it out all the way, and it's a really good contrast for that.
What else do you want to talk about? We haven't really discussed Penguin stuff.
The scene with Penguin's mom, and she essentially saying that she ratted out one of her rivals to the secret police. Instead of just doing like a full-on confrontation and kind of being in the back and maneuvering and using the higher forces to aid her goals, I could definitely see where Penguin gets his plans from now. I think that relationship's finally getting a lot more intimate than just being creepy.
Yeah, I'm glad that informed that a little bit. And folks last week were theorizing, or maybe it was us, I forget, theorizing that she would likely end up being the thing that somebody tried to use against him eventually, that like he has vulnerabilities too, but he likes to pretend like he doesn't, and she's that thing he has to lose. And we've brought her up 3 times now. I kind of think that that's likely.
Yeah, I think so too. Like especially with Fish Mooney and all the mother stuff there, and you can clearly see that he cares about her, at least to a certain extent.
You have to think about that. You know that's what'll happen, right? Like I'll predict this right now. Fish kidnaps his mom. Fish murders his mother. That's what makes him go even farther over the edge. And he kills her and either takes her spot or goes all the way up even over Falcone. I think that's the end of your season with him, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's probably the best way to go with him. I really like, though, that the show just doesn't give us, like, blatant backstories that explain everything. It's giving everything to us slowly, and it's got a very deliberate pace.
I gotta tell you, and I know I complain about flashbacks a lot, and my saying this might annoy somebody, but I'll say that it makes me almost resist that we've done any flashbacks at all in this show. Because and we really have only done the thing with Bullock, I think, but like and that was handled well, and I completely understand why we went back there, and I do think that was a case that we needed to see what he used to be like. But when we're not giving all of people's backstories so obviously and right in our face about it, and we're allowed to kind of use our imaginations and try to piece stuff together, and you have a lot of these characters that are just really mysterious about it. It makes me kind of wish that this show would have a firm no flashback kind of policy, especially because not getting to see what Gotham was like at all before the pilot would make so much sense the way they've been playing it. That like it's different now, it can never go back. Like for us to you never even get to see what it was like in the front. I wouldn't usually say that that's necessarily a good thing, but my instincts are telling me that with this show it would almost make sense. You know, I keep saying that Gotham in this show feels like kind of a alien landscape now. Like it's outside of the rest of the world. It feels kind of surreal. It's twisted. It's perverse, and like you could almost do something thematic with the idea of not going back to see what it used to be like, because it can never be that again. And so we can hear people talking about it and stuff, but like this what I'm saying is the show likes to manipulate the viewers like perceptions of these characters, and Gotham is of course naturally a character in the show, and so for us to wonder what it used to be like would also make a lot of sense. It makes me wish we weren't doing flashbacks at all in the show.
Yeah, agreed. And every character seems to have this ideal niche of what Gotham used to be, and they miss it, and we never get too much into that.
No, and we've not explored it too much, but the fact that we did it once makes me think, I kind of wish we just didn't do it. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I like the flash that we got is a very close story of it's literally a flashback outside of it, inside a building, and nothing else.
You're right.
And I wonder if that was deliberate or not. But like Falcone has this very, very precise idea of like, this is what Gotham used to be. Fish has got that. Penguin's got that. And Penguin sees this future war coming. It's almost like the ideal of Gotham's in the past, and because it's an ideal, we can never get it, we can never touch it, and because the moment we see it, it's anything less than perfect, like it's supposed to be. And so if we just keep moving forward and we're seeing people change, I wonder if ultimately we would even explore if Gotham was never good and everyone's just deluding themselves even further, or if we can infer that into it.
Maybe so, and importantly, the one time we did it, it was regarding one of these extreme characters that puts a mask on that was already there in the first place, and it was one of the things that was either getting Gotham closer to where it is after the Waynes get murdered, or as you said, perhaps it just was always that way, and people can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, I would love if we just, like, by the end of the season or by the end of the series period, like, we just left it up to the viewer. Like, Gotham's got such a diverse history mythos by that point that it's everyone's best guess of what Gotham used to be. Because all these characters mixing in just have their own perspective to it, and it would be impossible to piece that together.
Let's go ahead and go on to best moment, worst moment. What was your favorite moment for the episode, Steve?
I'm kind of torn. I really like the scene where Bruce gets forced to go to school, and then he's like, why should I be normal? Make a good case for it. And that was fun, but then I really enjoyed the scene at the very end where Alfred agrees to teach him to fight, and you can see just well, the feeling of like appreciation behind Bruce's eyes and how relieved he is, and how he's almost torn between like, should I be a kid or should I not, and almost like he's finally opened himself up to an option more than he did before.
Yeah, after as much as we've talked about it, I'm gonna say it's Alfred and Bruce walking away from Tommy at the end, because just for all the reasons that we were talking about it earlier, and especially because that was a moment where at first I was like, I don't know about that, and then I really like it a lot as we talk about it. Bullock's speech at the department's really good.
Oh yeah, I love that scene.
Did I say Bullock? Yeah, Bullock's speech there. That's really good. I mean, I want to say Barbara leaving.
If she stays.
I want to see, but I don't trust this show. I don't trust that, Steve. Because they did it to us last.
Really likes the actress that plays Barbara.
Why? Oh, I'm sure she's a nice person, but like, man. So is this really going to be one of those things where when we get the special features, if they do some kind of behind the scenes featurette, everybody's going to talk about how awesome an actress she is? Because no, man, I'm sorry, but no.
No, she's a cool enough person, but she's not an actress and she's not a good character. So just please write her out. Everything else is just so far above that.
I'm sorry, I don't feel like it's working. And I know we've talked about that a lot. Yeah, her. I don't know, man. Like just. Do we want to say anything about that? We haven't talked about that this episode.
She was not as bad as she was in previous episodes, especially the previous episode.
I have gotten so frustrated with that relationship that it's hard for me to even pay attention to it now. I know that sounds awful, but I mean, like, you know, I watch her and Gordon on screen together. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. And when they and so, you know, when they're acting like they've been together forever and Gordon cares about her for some reason, I just don't understand it, and it makes it hard for me to even keep track of it. So when she leaves at the end, I'm like, oh wait, what is she upset about? I don't care. She's upset about something. I don't care.
The fact that she's really anxious and she pulls a gun on Gordon, I think that's really good writing, because I mean, she got kidnapped and she was with Mr. Zaz that whole time. Gordon could have been killed right in the room next to her. I think that's good. But then she does like these really weird things. Like she has this line where she says like, "How can you promise that to me, that no one will hurt me?" And then immediately says, "Lie to me and tell me that there are no monsters." I didn't buy that really.
Yeah, and she's kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah, very.
I mean, you know, when I. One of the things I wrote in the running for worst moment, we could just go there now, is when she says, or when Gordon says, "I wish it wasn't like this," and she says, "Do you really?" If I liked her more and she was reasonable, that would be actually an important and very useful line, because, as you said, talking about where he is at the end, when he says, it tells Bullock that he doesn't like fighting, you and I are both in agreement on, I don't know about that. So when he says, "I wish it wasn't like this," and she says, "Do you really?" She knows him presumably better than Bullock does. Presumably that gives us more of a reason to think that like maybe this is actually kind of his post-wartime wet dream, having to deal with this situation, and like he's got a messiah complex and he's getting to like live that out, you know. I don't know that he's got a death wish necessarily, but he sure sometimes acts like it. So
he's got to have a degree of a death wish just living with Barbara. That's a different story.
that's a tough. But I don't know, like in the moment, the way she said it, and she's like, "Oh, just ignore me. I've been drinking." I'm like, I don't.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, I think they did a better job of writing her in this episode. It's just the actress can't pull it off at all.
It makes me wonder if she understood the connotation. You know, if she got to read the whole script and even knew about that ending. Because if I'd read that ending, I might have read that line differently than she did.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, do you have a worst moment, Steve?
Not really. The Barbara thing's up there, but I think just for the sake of variety, I was really let down by the Black Mask Gordon fight. Like, he pulls a sword and they barely do anything. They just kind of back into a corner and then Black Mask is beat. I mean,
and
I
they've been
Arrow,
doing
and
a
Arrow's
lot
got
of
such
that.
good choreography. I kind of wanted something along those lines. Maybe that's unfair.
Well, and also, you can't expect that kind of thing necessarily, because this is a show that's a lot grittier, and so the way they would do their violence is a lot more realistic and rough and tumble, right? So you would expect it to go on longer, but I wouldn't necessarily expect choreography. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, just because all these comic book shows are on, it's really hard not to, like, compare them a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
and, like,
sure,
the fact
absolutely.
that Flash and Arrow both do flashbacks, and the show doesn't do any, and it's really refreshing in that respect.
Well, for me, it's more just, now that you say it, it's more just, don't they usually kind of end like that? I mean, like, it's just we've had this formula of we beat the bad guy in 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very 5-minute wrap-up-y. Steve, why would Penguin be dumb enough to give Fish a sharp instrument in her package to stab him with?
That's a very good question.
And don't try to say that it's because he knew that she would do a thing after he did that that's going to lead to another thing, that he's got a whole plan. Like, no! That was...
You see, the fact that his hand is scarred and swollen will eventually lead to the fact that he won't be able to shake Falcone's hand, and therefore their alliance falls apart, and that's what Penguin wanted the whole time.
Steve, that was really silly, I thought. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason, and I'm not thinking of what it is, but he gave her a instrument, and clearly he can't be naive enough to trust her in any way at all, and obviously never did, and was playing her the whole time, and so I don't like that.
The way I thought of it, and I thought the guy that played Penguin did a really good job of getting that hurt scene out. Like, it's hard to convey that sometimes. What I got of it was that he only went to Fish because she wanted to see what her operation was like, and then she kidnapped the guy that used to have his job and get information from him. Yeah. And maybe the fact that he got stabbed is just the price of doing business like that.
Well, yeah, sure, but he didn't have to give her a box that had a sharp instrument in it.
No, true enough.
He gave her the means. I feel like it's kind of just we like to keep putting Penguin in situations where he gets the crap kicked out of him so that he doesn't look like he's perfect at this.
Right.
And that's good and all, but that seemed like almost a contrived way to try to make him look not too good at this so that we'll buy all the master manipulation he does later. I don't know.
No, that's fair.
That was silly. Okay, what was your favorite quote?
I really like the line that Black Mask has when he says, "A mask hides the face but frees the soul. A mask speaks the truth." Yeah,
I had that one too. Fish, I need to siphon his strength so that taking over will be like slipping on a glove. I kind of like that.
Oh yeah, that has nice rhythm to it. I also had like a fun bullet line where he meets the doctor and he just can't help but make puns about it. Like, they teach you that in med school, and that's a pun. Operating.
Yeah, operating. That was the closest thing I could come up with to a "That's So Bullock" line this time. There's not a real one, but that was the closest one that I came up. I wrote that one down too.
And I think in passing we mentioned this too, but Alfred's line when he says to Tommy Elliott, when Bruce tried to kill him, he said, "Yeah, that's right, he did. He tried to kill you. Just remember the next time you see him. Just remember that the next time you see him, and remember that I let him try."
Yeah. Nigma, I'm guessing I should run all the prints? So we've got 2 Penguin kills this episode.
Yes.
He killed that lady off screen to get a brooch. Once again, they sure love doing that. He's got somebody in his clutches, and then we cut. We know what happens. And then the guy who used to have his job, they did it with him too.
Yeah. And both times were really effective, really tense scenes.
Yep, that was really good. Guest stars this episode: the guy playing the kid playing Tommy Elephant, the Elliot in the room. Tommy Elliot is Cole Vallis, who is a brand new actor. This is his introduction to anything but short films. And then Richard Sionis was played by Todd Stashwick, who was Eli on Heroes, among many other things. But that was the thing I knew him from.
Oh, okay. He's on Psych and he's on Bird Notice, and those are just 2 USA shows I follow. I also think he was in a Star Trek show last time I looked him up.
Was he?
Yeah, it says here right he was in Star Trek Enterprise.
What episode?
Not sure. Let me...
Does it say?
IMDb.
Does it say? I didn't notice that.
Not. It just says 1 episode.
Oh, okay. I'll have to figure out what he was in. And let's go on to predictions and hopes. Do you have any we didn't talk about?
No, I just like the prediction you made about Fish killing Penguin's mom. I think that's good, and I think it's pretty likely soon enough that Falcone's going to confront Fish over the Liza business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to happen soon. He's got to know what's going on there. Although, I mean, it's going to be interesting. We didn't talk about this. It's going to be interesting to see. And I like that Falcone wasn't in this episode as much as he's talked about. I thought that was smart, especially because we're in his house and stuff, and we don't actually deal with him. But
yeah, the same with Maroni. Like, both those guys have a lot of screen presence together, and they have great dialogue. I like that we're using them sparingly.
Yeah, well, and it's always cool to like get the presence of these kinds of characters without having to use them too often, because you know, you overuse that real estate, and it stops being as exciting when they're on screen. You know, we talk about how Falcone is sort of like the smoking man, where like every time he shows up, you're like, yeah, Falcone's back. You know, but what I was going to say is I am really interested to see if Falcone, or how exactly Falcone manages to not be messed up by Liza, because I don't buy that it's going to work. Like, I think she's either going to get killed, or more than likely she's going to get turned into the into another Penguin. I kind of think that it's likely that he figures out what she's doing and turns her against Fish, which I don't think would be hard to do right now because she wants out.
Yeah, that's fair. When this episode started, they recapped the line when she says, "I want a weapon." I hope they bring that back to a little bit, and have her try to do something more than just steal information from Falcone, like maybe hurt him or assassinate him or something like that, and she doesn't have the stomach for it. Or Falcone knows that and he's counting on that and he uses her against Fish.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it really is just siphoning information, and I think that's enough for the weapon line. I mean, I think she explained it pretty well when she said that I could just kill him, but then everything would go into chaos. I got to make it happen slow. I think that's already there.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I think it's because she's like a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. Like, Falcone knows what she's there for. Fish doesn't realize it, but she's getting her way a little bit. Yeah. And I'm wondering if the information that she got for Fish all ends up being false, mostly because Falcone knows what she was doing the whole time.
You're right. That's probably where it ends up going. I imagine that's what they'll do. Well, Steve, let's go on to trivia questions. What was your question from last time, and what was the answer, sir?
All right, last time it was, how old was Victor Zsasz when his parents died? And the answer was he was 25 years old, the same age Bruce was when he came back to Gotham.
My question from last time was, what does Victor Zsasz have as his ringtone? And it was Funky Town, Steve.
That's fantastic.
Both of those questions were correctly answered at the same time by Zombie Thing MD, so congratulations to you. And now let's go on to today's questions. I'm going to assume you have a Hush or Black Mask question for us, Steve.
You would be correct. It's a black mask.
It's a Hush Mask question. It's a black. it's a Black Hush question.
It's a Black Hush question.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's Hush wearing black bandages.
Oh, that'd be great. So he's just wearing them over his mask.
Yes. And you take them off, and then it's a mask, and then you take the mask off, and then it's more bandages, and then you take those off, and it's another mask.
Okay, so we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but when Roman Sionis is a child, his parents don't pay attention to him, and he gets injured a lot. And they only really worry about the fact that the reputation's hurt when he is injured. So one of the many incidents where Roman Sionis is attacked by random things, he gets hit by an animal. What animal attacks him in his childhood?
Wow, that's a good question. My question is at the very beginning, and I want to say he uses it again at the end. I forget. We have a really interesting sharp implement being used to kill people in the office. There's a really sharp office supply that I never thought to use, but it's really horrifying. What is it? Somebody grabs something and breaks it off. What is that? That's my question for this week.
I love that you asked that, because every time I see that thing, it makes me wonder if I could use it in that way.
Yeah, I'm like, can I break that off and then start like whacking, like stabbing people with it? Anyway, that's I would never do that, Steve. Anyway, that's my question for the day. If you know either of these or both of these at the same time, do not hesitate to go to geekvolution.com, click on the contact page, and send us your answers. Steve, thanks as always for joining me. Had a great time. We missed Dan's news this week. Hopefully he'll be back with us again next week. Sorry he is not here, and he once again apologized profusely for not being able to make it.
Yep, and thanks for having me, and this was a lot of fun, so I like this episode a lot more now.
Yeah, we keep doing that with this show, right? But yeah, and this is very much a transition-y kind of episode, but I thought that there was some decent stuff in it, and it's probably going to be one of those that you're going to like more as it goes along, and they build on it.
Yeah, agreed. It really is a good episode. When we first started talking, I'm like, I'm not sure if I care about this, but now, I don't know, there's a lot of elements here.
Folks, thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate it. We're looking forward to reading your comments as always, and we will talk about a few of them at the beginning of next week's show. We will see you again very shortly. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxley.
We'll see you next time.